welcome back. We still have our two distinguished guests with us, Mr. Pinak Chakravarti and Mrs. Sikri. Mr. Chakravarti, sir, the Indian government has now extended to Bangladesh a 2 billion line of credit. In addition to that, the government of India is also talking of doubling the power supply to Bangladesh. But at the same time, companies like Tata have withdrawn from Bangladesh a $3 billion project because they said things in Bangladesh were just not moving fast enough. So is there optimism now with you that we can actually build up on this relationship? Because Mr. Modi did also say that his future for India is something that he also envisages for the people of Bangladesh.
Power, as you know, is so fundamental to economic growth. And I remember the Tata proposal, but there's a fundamental difference here. The Tata proposal was based on gas, getting gas from within Bangladesh at a particular price, and also coal, exploiting the coal fields that are there in the northern part of Bangladesh. None of it fructified because of basically the gas wasn't there at that price, and they just could not do open cast mines in the northern part where the coal was there because of displacement of people and the land, etc. So that's now history. But I think today the power plants that are being proposed are all based on imported coal, and hence that is feasible, and they will be near the southern shores of Bangladesh, which will use imported coal. Power is very essential. We are, of course, giving power. The grid connectivity has been done, and power is flowing from India, and we will double the power, if possible, I think up to 1,000 megawatts. Hence, the power arena is really something that we must push, because it helps connectivity, the grid connectivity, it helps integration of the two countries in a manner that we had never envisaged before. And in fact, SAARC, I think, declarations are there on grid connectivity and other kinds of connectivities. So power is an important area. And I think the second important area in the same energy sector is to go for joint exploration in the Bay of Bengal, because now we have sorted out the maritime boundary. So there are no disputes left. So I think some special, vehicles should be created, companies that can go into this area and start joint exploration under some arrangement of sharing. So that's an important area, and that's a new area that has opened up, particularly after the maritime boundary was.
Ma'am, trade deficit, it's again a regular Bangladeshi complaint against India, that while India's trade to Bangladesh is increasing, there is a trade deficit. They don't seem to know how to overcome that. Also, if you count all sorts of trade that is taking place with Bangladesh, even some of the so-called illegal trade, we're looking at a trade partnership of about $10 billion in India's favor. How can we move forward by also addressing Bangladesh's concerns?
Actually, I think that a lot of the decisions made, agreements during this visit have addressed that concern. Let me explain to you how. Yes, the trade deficit is a problem, and Bangladesh makes an issue out of it, although their own trade deficit with China is much more, and it's not an issue at all. They don't even talk about it. But the way in which India proposes to overcome it is to combine trade, investment, and services. Now, the special economic zones, two of them for India, one at Mongla, one at Bhiramara, those will be investments by India into Bangladesh, and they will contribute to jobs in Bangladesh, they will contribute to the GDP of Bangladesh, and the goods produced there will be sold in Bangladesh or sent to Northeast or to third countries. Now, if you look at services, all these connectivity proposals, the railways, the roads, the waterways, this is going to make Bangladesh a connectivity hub. All these services are going to be Bangladesh driven. Even today, there's a lot of trade by water which takes place to the Northeast, all on Bangladesh ships. So actually, the Bangladesh per capita GDP, the Bangladesh GDP overall is supposed to rise by at least 1 to 2% if all these programs are implemented. And I think the importance of the $2 billion credit line is that that is the vehicle to implement all these agreements, that $2 billion credit line will be put into specific projects that will implement all these 22 agreements that have gone in. So I think very soon, this trade, investment and services between India and Bangladesh could rise even well beyond 10 billion. We hope that a lot of the illegal trade will become legal. So that should contribute a lot. And secondly, I want to point out, if you look just at the trade part, a lot of the goods that Bangladesh imports from India actually go as raw materials into their ready-made garments industry, and they export to all over the world. Bangladesh today is the second largest exporter of ready-made garments. You know, it's cotton yarn, polyester yarn, fabric, textile machinery. All this from India goes straight into their ready-made garments industry.
Sir, very quickly and in brief, there's talk about intelligence sharing, joint cooperation in addressing a whole lot of issues that concern security primarily for us, but both countries. What do you think should be the step forwards which can actually be implemented?
You know, I've always felt that intelligence sharing is a buzzword which has been used a lot. But I think, and Maruf, you know it better than I do, that unless there is real-time intelligence sharing, not much follow-up action is possible. So I think what we need to move into is a real-time intelligence sharing, where the BSF and the Bangladesh border guards can have intelligence sharing on a real-time basis, that pick up the phone, tell them this is going to happen, or you have this, please check it out. That's the kind of thing we need to do. Not rooted through and intelligence coming after a few months, because then it's meaningless. And what are we looking at? I think we are looking at banned items moving up and down, because drugs and narcotics mainly. We are looking at illegal trafficking of people, human trafficking, particularly women and children also. I think some amount will take place. It can't be prevented all the time, because we have put some self-restraining conditions on our own BSF, which is fine, because we don't want killings on the border, because that has become a problem in the public mind in Bangladesh. What other things we are looking at? We are looking at the movement of, the fundamentalist and other terrorist groups that operate in and out. We are looking at cross-border movement by these people, which has suddenly blown up in Burdwan, for example, because they came under pressure there, so they moved here. We are looking at their connectivities and their contacts within India with certain groups within India. We should also look at the fact that radicalism or radicalization of the youth that has taken place to some extent now with the IS in the Middle East, attracting that kind of thing. Fortunately, not too many from this part of the world. So I think these are the things that we have to look at, and we'll also have to help Bangladesh deal with their kind of, let's say, communication and other issues, which maybe we have some better facilities. I think we should help them on that as well.
There was also talk by Mr. Modi about work-related visas, which will help overcome, this whole pressure, the demographic pressure that our borders face from Bangladesh. In quick, just a few sentences, I mean, how will this work?
Well, we all know, as statements have been made in Parliament, that there is a substantial amount of illegal immigrants from Bangladesh in India. Now, if they have come for economic purposes in response to a job requirement in India, then they should be given work permits and allowed to stay, say, for 1 year, 2 years. The problem arises when you have unidentified illegal immigrants. If you identify the illegal immigrants, Bangladesh sends immigrants all over the world for economic reasons. Let's identify them, have them on our rolls as immigrants from Bangladesh, give them work permits. When the job requirement is over, they go back. And in this way, they will send money back. All of them send money back right now through illegal channels, through Hawala channels, which becomes a route for funding of terrorists and extremist groups. But if they are legal, then it goes through financial channels, which will add to the economy of both the countries. So that's a very important.
Well, thank you very much. There have been a number of important points that have come out, which one doesn't normally see in some of the other commentaries that talk about India-Bangladesh relations. But to sum up, I can sort of probably put my finger on 4 or 5 points. The first is that Bangladesh's location makes it an important strategic partner for India, and also it will continue to be the linchpin for India's look east and India's northeast policy. The second is that there are old mindsets which are deeply ingrained in Bangladeshi society. There are some pro-Pakistani elements there which continue to have a serious constituency, and in the short term at least, they're not going to go away. The third and most important point is that with the entire set of line of credit and a whole lot of trade arrangements that the Mr. Modi has offered to Bangladesh, Bangladesh could actually see a 1 to 2% growth in its GDP and maybe more in the years to come if Bangladesh can take full benefit of what India has to offer. And finally, India's security can be better served by real-time intelligence sharing and not responding to situations after an attack or a catastrophe has happened. Thank you very much for all your views, and I wish to thank both of you. Thank you very much for being with us on this show. We'll be back next week with another episode of Latitude. Until then, goodbye.